This sad bag of lettuce has been washed, chopped, hauled across the country and left sitting around until all that's left is a pale imitation of what lettuce should really taste like. Because once you've grown lettuce, even just once, you'll realise how lettuce can be sweet, crisp, juicy and cut mere seconds before you eat it. In this video, I'm going to show you why homegrown lettuce is so much better, how to grow loads of it in even a small space, and the best way to keep harvesting it so you'll have more than you'll ever need. Lettuce, begin! So I think we best get on straight on with some action, don't you? And I'm going to be sowing into this little plug tray here into a sifted all-purpose potting mix just to remove any lumps. And I've also added to this a little bit of perlite for improved drainage, though that's by no means essential, but if you have it to hand, you might as well add it. Now I'm using these quite small plug trays, but you could also use seed snails, for example, soil blocks, or even just go into pots, or indeed sow directly, and I'll show you how to do that shortly. And now let's take a closer look at these seeds, and they are really quite tiny, aren't they? But it's incredible to think that in just 30 to 40 days, this will be our lunch. I just love that. So to start, I'm just going to make very, very shallow depressions like this, like playing the piano, isn't it? But they're going to be very shallow, about 1/4 inch or maybe 1/2 centimetre deep. Lettuce actually needs light to grow, so we don't want to bury them too deep at all. And then with our seeds, they're going to be into each plug just 2 or 3 seeds. Doesn't matter if you do more than that, but we're going to do that so that we can thin them out, leaving just 1 seedling in each little plug. There we are. Delicate and dainty. Then take a wee pinch of our mix and just very, very lightly cover them over till they disappear from view. That is it. The advantage of sowing into plugs like this is that you have your seedlings in here already ready to grow on, and if you get more than 1 seedling, you can either carefully pull up the seedlings that are excess or just snip them off to avoid root disturbance. And then the final thing left to do is to give our seeds a nice water to set them on their way. I also like to sow them into pots like this. It saves space initially, it's a small footprint, and then you can easily just eke out the seedlings and put them into a plug tray. And let me quickly show you how to prick or transplant our little seedlings out. Get your pencil or little stick underneath them like that, hold them by the leaves, and then simply make a hole, feed the roots down and bung it in like that, nice and simple. And you can plant them a little bit deeper to give them extra support. And that's pretty much as complicated as it gets. If you can sprinkle salt onto your food, you can sow lettuce seeds. And that brings me on to the first reason I'm never buying lettuce again. It is ridiculously easy to grow. If I could grow just 1 garden bed, it would probably be of salads such as lettuce. And that's because you get so much from what is a relatively compact space, saving you a small fortune on supermarket lettuce. And lettuce grows fast. You can harvest lettuce literally within a few weeks of sowing it, and you can harvest it continuously. And of course, anything you grow yourself is going to be organic, no nasty chemicals needed. It'll grow in the spring, summer and autumn, and with a little bit of protection through the winter too. And it will even cope with a little bit of shade. What an absolute superstar. Unlike, say, peppers or squash, you're not waiting all season for one big payoff at the end of the season. Plant your lettuce and within 1 month you will be harvesting. That is pretty much lightning speed. But perhaps the most compelling reason of all is taste. Lettuce that you have harvested yourself is sweet, juicy, crisp and nutty. Supermarket lettuce just cannot compete because lettuce loses flavour the moment it's harvested. Grow your own lettuce, however, and it's alive and vibrant. Another reason to grow your own lettuces is that supermarkets have to concentrate on lettuces that ship well, whereas we, my green-fingered and thumbed friends, can concentrate on lettuce that tastes incredible. So let's take a look at a few of the options open to us as home growers. First up is loose leaf lettuce. It's fast growing and often frilly and very colourful too, perfect for regular harvesting. And we will be looking at the best ways of harvesting lettuce to prolong the harvest window in a bit. Then next up is your cos or romaine lettuce. Now this one here is my personal favourite. Why? Because, anyway, seriously, it's upright, it's crunchy, and it's more tolerant of heat. And it's perfect for the real heartiest of salads. Butterhead lettuces, on the other hand, are soft, sweet and tender. These are restaurant level greens. And then there's crisp head or iceberg types of lettuce, bursting with crispness and juiciness. But better still, why not just grow all of them and mix things up a bit with different colours? There's greens, there's reds, there's even speckled varieties, different flavours, different textures. Here are just a few, but there are literally hundreds of different lettuce varieties to try. Which means that lettuce from your garden isn't just lettuce, it can be a literal work of art. When sowing lettuce, you have two options. The first is to sow into pots or plugs like we've just done. The second is to sow directly where you're going to grow your lettuces, into rows. Now, sowing directly like this is perfect when you're sowing a mixture of salad leaves that are cut and come again, where you harvest them and cut them again. I'm going to be sowing a beautiful mixture of different types of lettuce here, of different shapes and colours, and we'll be growing them in a nice row quite close together so I can take them as and when as quite small leaves. And it's also really good when you're growing those loose leaf types of lettuce that will form nice kind of open heads rather than tight hearts. And to sow, I'm just going to take a small pinch and then put them into the rows or drills just very lightly along like this. Now this soil has been improved already with some well-rotted compost, and this will not only help to retain valuable moisture for our lettuces, which they'll really love, it will also help to slowly feed them as the season progresses. And then after covering them over, just very lightly give them a water, and I'll be coming out here regularly to check that they are consistently moist to help with that germination. Now, once they are up, I will just pull out some of the excess seedlings just to leave about 1 inch to 2 inches or up to 5 centimetres between each little plant to give it the room it needs to grow on. Here are some lettuces that were started off a few months ago, and as you can see they're in rude health, lusciously green, vibrant, turgid and ready to plant. Now this bed here enjoys a good amount of direct sunshine. It's still quite early in the season and they will appreciate the extra light, but if you're growing in the heat of summer, then somewhere that gets maybe sunshine in the morning but then is more shaded in the afternoon might serve you well to slow down the speed at which plants bolt, and I'll explain more on that shortly. Now I've added plenty of good well-rotted garden compost here already, but I'm just going to go in with a little extra something, and that's some bloodfish and bone, just to add a few more nutrients, especially nitrogen, which our lettuces will love. So I'm going to plant them about roughly 10 inches or 25 centimetres apart so they can form a proper heart, or a proper full head anyway. So I've got 3 types here. I've got a beautiful red-leaved Lollo Rosso, a salad bowl green type, and then a butterhead as well, which will make a fantastic combination. I'm just doing rows of alternating colours, but if you're artier than I am, you could perhaps do them in a checkerboard kind of arrangement, which would look very nice. They could go a bit closer for slightly smaller heads, but I want to maximise the potential of these guys. And then a water, not just to give them a good drink to get them started, but to settle in the soil around the roots as well. Lettuce is of course a leafy crop, which means it's quite thirsty, so I'll keep an eye on these guys, and as my lettuce gets more mature, and if it does wilt indeed, then I can just go ahead and water it whenever it needs it. Lettuce seedlings can be planted at any point from say 2 to 4 weeks old, whenever they're big enough to handle really, and the advantage of starting your lettuce off away from the beds they're going to be grown in is that you can have something else occupying the bed while you're starting your lettuce off to maximise those growing spaces. And it also makes it easier to succession sow, sowing every 2 to 3 weeks to ensure a continuous supply of luscious leaves and to keep those salad bowls full. If you don't have much space, well, lettuce grows really well in containers too, and because it's shallow rooted, it will grow in quite a shallow container, like this one here. Like me, lettuce prefers slightly cooler conditions, which makes spring and autumn prime time for lettuces. Once temperatures climb above about 80 Fahrenheit or 27 Celsius, plants tend to think they've done their job and it's time to produce the next generation, which is when they bolt or send up flower stalks. Now at this point, leaf production really slows and the leaves that remain can taste a bit bitter. So here's how I get around that. Because lettuce is a cool season crop, there's no sense in delaying sowing. I actually start sowing from late winter, making sowings at 3 weekly intervals to ensure a steady supply. Then once we get into the depths, or rather the heights of summer, then I might deploy some sort of shade cloth or something, or more often than not, just grow my lettuces in the shade of a taller crop, such as beans, for example. Keep on sowing right up until early autumn, just before temperatures start to cool off. And those later sowings will be of winter hardy varieties. And you can often tell what those are by their name. For example, Winter Density, Arctic King, or indeed Ice Queen. They've all got rather chilly sounding names. Growth will really start to slow down as winter approaches, but one way to extend the season is just to pop your lettuces under some form of temporary cover, such as a temporary cold frame or cloche like this. Now, nice and snug and cozy in here, you're going to be extending your harvest by at least a month or so. Many gardeners can get their lettuces harvested for up to 8 months, often beyond, and that really is quite something. Harvesting is where the whole lettuce growing mission turns, quite frankly, magic. And that's because just like growing lettuces, there are several ways you can harvest them depending on what you want. Now, the first one is to cut and come again, and that simply means taking off individual leaves from the plant like this. Now you click them off or cut them off at the outside, right down to the stem like this. And by doing this, you leave the central growing point completely intact. And what that means is that it will produce more leaves and continue to grow. This way you can get several harvests of leaves from the same plant, dramatically extending the window of harvest for each plant to weeks, sometimes even months. Another alternative is to cut just straight across the lettuce about 1 or 2 inches from the base of the plant, or 3 to 5 centimetres. That way the growing point in the middle is still intact and you'll get another flush of leaves. And then of course there's simply cutting off or pulling up the entire head of lettuce, usually done when you are growing a tight head forming type of lettuce, to bring into the kitchen nice and fresh. And there's nothing more satisfying than slicing into a perfect head of lettuce that you have grown yourself. It is really quite abundant, decadent even. Once harvested, lettuces need proper washing and storing, assuming it's not going to be snaffled up straight away, that is. Now the way I do it is just to pop them into a bowl of really cold water, which on a hot day when they're starting to wilt can freshen them up a bit so they're ready to go into the refrigerator. It also helps because all the bits of mud and sometimes a few bugs as well come to the surface, and you can skim them off before getting your clean leaves out like this. Then you can either flick them dry, or what I prefer to do, because it's a lot of fun, is to put them in the salad spinner. This is so much fun. Then you can store your lettuce in either a polythene bag with a bit of paper towel in, or a lidded container like this. And kept in the refrigerator, this lettuce should last for at least a week actually. But it never lasts that long in our household because it is quite moorish in all those salads and sandwiches and whatnot. For me, the value of growing your own lettuce goes far beyond flavour and even saving money. There's something so powerful about being able to step outside, harvest a bowl of lovely greens and go back into the kitchen and enjoy them. It's empowering and a wonderful way to feel more connected with the natural world. So I'm never buying lettuce again. Not because I can't, but because I don't want to. No more sweaty bags of mediocrity, I say. Let us be at one with the glory of growing our own. Now get yourself over here to get connected with our garden planner. Seriously, if you haven't started planning out your vegetable garden this season, this could well be your salvation. Do give it a try. And I will catch you next time.